I'm surviving.
I missed out on this one. She might outlaw you.
Okay. There you go.
No, it'll be on the June 12th. We're gonna have to wait a month in between.
I thought that was rather slow.
Yeah, I already have the paperwork. It has John Bell sent it over with the final numbers and everything. So I have it for the June 12th. Well, no, actually, leave it. So, no, there's no highlights on it.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, we're good, and it's ready for the next meeting. Thanks, Ron.
Hey, Chris. Probably show before you even time. Somebody got a haircut. Yeah, I get that. I don't ever look at the date.
Well, and that's I don't know how much that probably isn't all.
Perfect, thank you very much.
You got your incinerator yet?
We're talking about that today. We're about to buy.
Awesome.
When you think about the front door?
Oh, call the meeting to order, please. We have roll call.
Mayor Segrist,
Present.
Vice Mayor Harden,
Present.
Commissioner Carlisle,
Here.
Commissioner Martinez,
Here.
Commissioner Warren.
Here.
We have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please.
Mayor Seegers, Vice Mayor Harden, and Commissioners, my name is Delvin Kinzer. I'm from Abundant Life Fellowship here in Liberal and representing the Roman Serial Alliance tonight. Let's pray. Father, we just thank you that we can come together as a community tonight. Lord, we look to you for wisdom as we consider the business of this community. We thank you, God, that there are so many people here who are willing to serve. And Lord, they're not just servants of the people, but they're your servants. And so we just pray a blessing over them tonight. God, I pray that every item of discussion, every issue that they deal with, Lord, that they would seek your wisdom, and that, Lord, that you would have your way in our community. We love you, and we thank you for each and every one of these commissioners serving tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the approval of the agenda.
Madam, we need to amend the agenda for May the 22nd of 2018 instead of 2017. Therefore, I make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Carlisle and a second by Commissioner Harden to approve an amended agenda which reads May 22nd, 2018. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Next item is the minutes of the previous meeting, the May 8th meeting.
Make a motion to approve the May 8th, 2018 regular meeting minutes as presented. Second.
A motion by Commissioner Carlisle, second by Commissioner Martinez to approve the May 8th, 2018 regular meeting minutes. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Now we're moving on to items from citizens. We ask that you please limit your time to 5 minutes and come up and tell us your name. And then as we get on into the meeting, if there's something on the agenda that you would like to talk to us about, you're welcome to also do that at that time. So would anybody like to address the commission? Yes, Frank?
My name is Frank Reason. I live out east of town. I think everybody knows me here. And I would like for you guys to take and put some better speakers back there so that when you guys are talking, Jack Carlisle is the only one that speaks up loud enough where some of us deaf people have a hard time hearing. He speaks loud enough where we can hear.
Because I'm deaf, that way I gotta speak up, you
Well,
know.
there's nothing wrong with that. But if there is any possible way you could take and put a hard hearing section for us deaf people, and it's just not only me, the people that I have talked to that have listened to me talk on these nights, they say, we can only hear half of what is being said. And sometimes my 5 minutes are up. So. I have no idea what I want to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Mrs. Isaacson?
Yeah.
Rita, you might want to wait a minute. They're fixing the mic.
I'm turning it down. No.
Come on.
I had to pick on you, Rita.
That's okay.
Well, start.
Okay. No mind, I got 7:42.
And to further that, all of us are getting complaints that people on the video part cannot understand. And this is a big complaint. That's not what I want to talk about tonight. One good thing about it, I did ask that the no right turn sign be taken away from the school when they dismiss, but all the school signs are still up. And on 15th, I was told the other day, they were concerned about the one sign that goes down, and if you go, people that don't know there's a school there, are they going to be picked up, excuse me, when they go beyond that speed limit?
I believe that, as we are speaking, this area is being addressed. Okay, we're getting with Pete Earls and we're gonna get with the school system. There are some of us believe that some of these school zones need to be done away with, especially when there's no more schools there.
Yes, that's it.
And we need to shorten some of these.
Actually, it is an agenda item for the meeting tomorrow night, Wednesday, at Eisenhower Middle School. It is an agenda item to talk about the school zones, so that hopefully USD 480, police department, the county, everybody's on the same page when we redo what we need to do. So that's the best I can tell you. We'll have a better answer after tomorrow night, what everybody's in agreement on.
Item 2.
Thank you for bringing that up.
And Estes Road all the way is basically what Highway 83. When you're coming in from the southbound turbine, you're going to turn on Pine Street. That's a major thing. And you get right up there and you've got a left-hand turn. We need a sign by the road. Now, who's going to provide this? That goes Pine Street. You need the blinking lights for a caution. Then you need to go down to 8th. You've got a thing that says 8th Street on the right. On 11th and 15th, you also need signs on the right that say these streets, not just a left-hand turn thing. This is dangerous. I almost got rear-ended the other day, even though I was in that left side. And when you get up to Tucker, you also need the blinking light. And you need one that says to Tucker Road, because you've got a short turn in there to make that road. If you don't know where you're going, you're going to get hit. That's it. What do I need to do to get this done? Who do I need to talk to?
Is that you a Pete question? I want to bail out on that. I mean,
Yeah, I can look at it.
okay.
You can. All right. That's all I need. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Rita.
you.
Thank you, Rita. Anyone
Frank,
else?
since we got the mic working, you gonna finish or?
No, I had my 5 minutes.
You had your 5 minutes?
Yeah, she looked at me strange.
She looks at me strange all the time, so.
You have an idea what I want.
Yeah, yes.
Anyone else? Okay. Are there any groups that want to speak? We'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there anything you want to pull out of that consent agenda? Do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Carlisle, second by Commissioner Warren to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Joint Building Safety Board.
Kevin, I'm gonna go ahead and let you speak this time.
Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. The City of Liberal Building Department and Seward County Planning and Zoning Department are proposing the development of a joint building safety board of appeals. This was presented at a past joint city-county meeting and was approved to move forward and work together in creating a revision of the adopted city ordinance and create a joint building safety board of appeals. We have amended City Ordinance number 4423 and created County Resolution number 2018-07. The ordinance and resolution establishes a joint building safety board of appeals for the City of Liberal and Seward County. The ordinance and resolution prescribe standards and policies pertaining to the appointment term, governance, and attendance of the membership of the board. Both city and county attorneys have put together and agreed upon the attached interlocal corporation agreement. Both city and county staff believe that both entities will benefit from having a joint building safety board of appeals to hear any appeals arising from the enforcement of building codes or regarding the use of new types of materials. The board would also be instrumental in determining what amendments should be made when adopting updated codes. Staff is requesting that the City Commission approve ordinance number 4423-A1 and the interlocal cooperation agreement, and allow it to go to the county commission for their approval as well.
Make a motion to approve the amended ordinance number 4423-A1.
I'll second.
Are you gonna have the interlocal?
I think we do that on a separate one, don't you? Yeah. Do a separate motion on that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Carlisle, second by Commissioner Harden, to approve ordinance number 4423-A1. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Now make a motion to approve the interlocal cooperation agreement with the county.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Carlisle, second by Commissioner Harden, to approve the interlocal cooperation agreement with the county. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin, thank you and Marcy for your work on this. Thank you very much.
The next item is, resolution 2280.
Good evening. Before you tonight for your consideration, this is more of somewhat a housekeeping item. We currently do have a public water supply revolving loan with KDH&E, and this resolution essentially would update the authorized signers who would be able to provide and submit information to KDH&E, and would update to interim city manager Calvin Burke and Chris Ford, Director of Finance. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions. Otherwise, staff would request your commission consideration on this resolution.
I'll make the motion we consider the resolution 2280.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Martinez, second by Commissioner Harden, to approve resolution 2280. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Chris.
Next item is fire department vehicle purchase.
Okay. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, we're here to request the purchase of 3 2018 Ford Interceptor utility SUVs. 2 of these vehicles would replace our 2 current admin vehicles, and 1 will be an additional vehicle to for the chief's position since the vehicle allowance program is going away. The current vehicles would be moved. 1 would be moved to the airport to shuttle the firefighter back and forth from the airport station to do daily duties, which would include hydrant testing, inspections of businesses, and things of that nature. The F-150 with the topper, that would be moved to the south station and be used for emergency response to help prolong the life of Squad 5. We just had about $10,000 worth of work done to that engine, and there's a flaw with that engine, and they can't guarantee how long we're going to get out of that engine, so we're trying to make that thing last as long as possible. So both the current vehicles would be utilized within our department. Currently, we have the old brown Buick. What year is that? You know, Chris? 2001. It's an 01, and it's got over 100,000 miles. The windows are being held up by 2x4s and duct tape. AC, heat do not work. And our firefighters take that vehicle to EMT class when we've been going over to Meade for the class. And those windows have dropped on the highway into the door, and 30-degree weather, it's a little chilly coming back from me. So we're hoping to get rid of that vehicle. What we looked at was purchasing all-wheel drive vehicles that had sufficient cargo space and high-profile markings and lights. We were looking for a road-ready package that came with all the lights already installed, the siren. Between the Dodge and the Ford, one of the major differences was Ford could remove the console and put the shifter actually on the column, which left the room to put a console for our radios and siren. Dodge could not do that. So we would have to utilize the space under the armrest for our radios and sirens and all of our controls, which isn't really conducive for driving down the road looking back to see what you're doing. And then, of course, markings, having high-profile markings so that people can easily identify the vehicles. We would use these for response. We need some extra cargo room for myself and the fire marshal because we have arson investigation equipment that we carry, our bunker gear. Chief carries a lot of the hazmat manuals, the CRIS manuals, and things like that. We went to the 3 locals. Lewis Motors was not able to quote a mid-sized SUV. They were only able to quote the, the Tahoe. So we went ahead and got one out of Wichita as well. You guys have the Excel sheet that looks like this? Okay. I broke it down to the unit price and whether or not it had the road ready. For the Dodge, I tried to estimate as best as possible what the road ready package would be, understanding that there may be some additional cost to install some of those lights. The graphics are the same. Radio console would be the same for the Fords, but we would have to make some modifications to the Dodge in order to get our radios and sirens and controls, and that would take up part of the passenger seat as well. So that wasn't really attractive to us. So you guys have all the quotes. Foss came in at the lowest at $35,115, and with that all included as well with the graphics and everything. The total project comes to $105,345, and this would also eliminate the purchase of 2 vehicles in 2021 and 2022 to replace the admin vehicles that we are currently going to take out of the admins and move those to the stations to be utilized. So our recommendation is to purchase the 3 vehicles for a total cost of $105,345. $35,115 from the Special Fire Equipment Fund and $70,230 from the City Equipment Reserve Fund.
Okay. Since this 2001 Buick is in pristine condition, don't you think we ought to move that over to the auction? Get rid of it now?
That would be my recommendation.
I think we ought to need to do that.
Dennis, you got another item for Bill?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to make you go over to Skinsky, but
Yeah.
where did you say the other 2 vehicles will be sent to?
One would be sent to our airport station. That would be the 2010 Ford Escape. And then that would be used as a pool car for the EMT class as well when the guys have to go out of town. And then the F-150 with the topper, that would be moved to the South Fire Station and utilized as a daily use vehicle, and then also you can go on medical calls as well. We'd be able to carry some spine boards and some other equipment.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
I'll make a motion to purchase 3 2018 Ford Interceptor utility SUV 8 all-wheel drive vehicles from Foss Ford in the amount of $105,345. Funds from one vehicle, $35,115, will come from the Special Fire Equipment Fund, and the other 2 vehicles, $70,230 from the City Equipment Reserve Fund.
Correct.
I'll second.
A motion by Commissioner Carlisle, second by Commissioner Harden, to purchase 3 2018 Ford Interceptor utility SUV all-wheel drive vehicles from Foss Ford in the amount of $105,345. Funds for one vehicle of $35,115 will come from the Special Fire Equipment Fund, and the other vehicles, $70,230, will come from the City Equipment Reserve Fund. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Police Department.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioner. For the record, my name is Dennis Molinax. I'm the Chief of Police for the Liberal Police Department. Tonight I have three items for consideration. In front of you is the proposal and request for the permission to buy 10 more officer body cameras. About 2 years ago, the Liberal Police Department purchased 15 body cameras, and with that, we felt it beneficial to add some more cameras to our supply, so that way that all of the officers could have their own assigned individual camera. This is in hopes of the camera will be specific to that officer, downloadable, more responsible, more tracking, more accountability for each and every camera. Earlier in the year, we approached a local grant foundation and made this request to them, and they approved that. So this request is for $5,017 for the purchase of 10 officer body cameras at no cost to the taxpayers.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of 10 Vivu LE5 body cameras in the amount of $5,017 from the local charitable organization.
Second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Harden, second by Commissioner Martinez to purchase 10 Vivu LE5 body cameras for a total of $5,017 from Vivu, and the funds coming from local charitable donation.
Is this gonna be enough cameras?
This will outfit all of our patrol. We'll have a couple extras right now that with the hiring of additional officers, we hope to keep this all going.
Awesome.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much to whoever the charitable organization was, by the way. We greatly appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. The second item for consideration tonight is a covert surveillance body wire. We've been using our current body wire for 12 years now. The technology for this body wire is outdated. It uses radio waves. We want to get to a digital, updated body wire that's more feasible to the operations that we plan to be doing. As you know, we've increased our covert operations lately, so with this body mic request, we again went to the same local grant foundation with this request, and again, they approved the money needed for that request, and it is for a total of $2,690 for the purchase of this updated body wire. So tonight I'm asking for your approval to spend these funds. Again, the total cost $2,690.
So you're looking for the body wire and the $125 for the SIM card?
It's a SIM card, yes. It's a provider, day-by-day plan. This allows for billing and communications with that body wire.
I'll make a motion to approve the body wire at a cost, and the SIM card at a cost of $2,690.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Carlisle, second by Commissioner Harden to purchase surveillance body wire at a cost of $2,565 plus $125 for the SIM card, total $2,690. Discussion, all in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. The third request I have tonight, as you've known, recently we are purchasing Ford Explorer police packages, and we are phasing out our Chevy Yukons. We have the city of Hugoton is requesting permission to buy some of our old, outdated equipment that's being phased out of the department. They are requesting the purchase of a prisoner transport partition, basically known as a safety cage. This comes along with a lower partition and a rear transport seat that prisoners are secured in. We came up with the idea of selling this equipment at 25%. It's used, it's worn, it's no longer of use to the police department, and again, our Chevy Yukons are being phased out. So I thought, in a manner and an effort to get along with the surrounding city police department that's supportive in nature, we could to assist them with this as well. The prisoner transport seat, if approved, at 25% of the original $450 cost, would be sold at $112.50. The lower partition would be sold at 25% of the original $48 cost at $12. And the rear transport seat, which had an original purchase price of the Liberal Police Department at $800, we'll sell that to them at 25%, which is $200, for a total cost of $324.50. The money from this will, of course, go to the general fund. So tonight I'm asking for permission to assist the Huguenot Police Department with outdated equipment that we have and selling it to them.
I'll make a motion that we provide the Huguenot Police Department with our older equipment.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Harden, second by Commissioner Carlisle, to provide Hugoton Police Department with our old department.
Can we do this with other departments or local like me?
Sure. Whatever comes available, we stay in good communication with all our surrounding agencies. And Wednesday I'm meeting with the Garden City Chief and the Dodge City Chief to continue our good relations. So we all want to work together and strive towards common goals and help each other out whenever we can.
Do you want to clarify for the amount of $324.50?
Oh, yes, I apologize. For the total resale cost of $324.50.
Any other discussion?
I noticed on there it said that you have a check for $362.50, and did you probably explain to us what the difference was?
Yes, earlier in the year, we had an officer that moved to the Huguenot Police Department. Used to work for the Liberal Police Department, but because of a death in the family and needing to help take over the family farm, which was closer to Huguenot, that officer left our department and went to work for the Huguenot Police Department. So this kind of started this initial process here. So that officer had an individual vest. With our ballistic vest, these things are made tailored to the officer's size. The Huguenot Police Department wished to request to purchase that police vest. So we charged a cost of $362.50. That was the police department's portion of the money that went towards the purchase of that vest. The other part was funded by a national grant. So
So these are two different deals then?
Two different deals, yes.
We need to get back to the motion for the $324.50 resale cost. Any other discussion about that? All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
I don't think anybody on the commission has a problem with the vest being sold.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
Christine, a motion on that.
I guess just for, we could maybe ratify the approval of the vest. That's already been done, but just for
I make a
formality.
motion that we ratify the sale of the vest to Huguenot Police Department for the amount of $362.50.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Carlisle, second by Commissioner Warren to ratify the sale of $362.50 to the Hugoton Police Department of the ballistic vest. All in favor? Next item is Mid-America Air Museum Foundation donation.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. A little history of the MAN Foundation. I guess I should state my name, Nancy Parsons, and I'm here representing the MAN Foundation. A little history. The foundation actually donated to the city back in 2013 $8,500 to be used for some software to help with the collections process at the museum. That, for some reason, was sort of put on hold until last year. It was brought back to the surface, and a motion by the commission on October 24th was made to purchase this Past Perfect software for 5 licenses for the museum, thus leaving about $5,187 of that donation. With this software, it not only requires entry of the artifact itself, but pictures as well. At the museum, there is a part-time curator who her time is shared between the robotics program and the archiving of the collections. So the Mann Foundation realized that, hey, in order to get this software up and usable, we really need some additional manpower there. So we went out and sought grants, and were able to achieve some money to help in implementing an intern program for hopefully this summer, maybe even perhaps longer. The grants that we received were $21,000, and we're here tonight to present that to the city to be used with this intern program. The interns were discussed at Seward County Community College, and we focused basically there on students, but it did not have to be exclusively a Seward County student that could be used for these interns. So tonight what I'm asking is that you accept the $21,000 in grant money that we have received for this program, and to also add $5,187 to that program, $5,187 being the balance of that original gift that the foundation made back in 2013. And then if any monies from this total of $26,187 is not used for the intern program, that could be earmarked to use for some other type of program at the Air Museum. So that's what I'm requesting this evening. Do you have any questions that I might address?
I think you covered it very well.
Yeah, very good explanation.
I'm just trying to figure out how to make a motion.
Well, should we split it up to where we have the motion to accept the donation first, and then, do we need to do three separate motions? Motion to accept the donation, motion to give the foundation back their $5,000, and then the approval?
That would be clear.
Say what?
That'd be the cleanest way to do it.
Okay, so I'll make a motion.
We're actually extending it ourselves.
Yes, the $5,187, you were just asking that you go ahead and use that for this same program, not giving it back to
Okay.
us.
So two motions.
Yes.
Does Chris know where to find it? Yes, it's in our gifts and donations fund, that's specified for the Air Museum, so.
We need a motion to accept the $21,000 first.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we accept the $21,000 from the Mann Foundation.
I'll second.
Tony did.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hart, a second by Commissioner Martinez to accept the $21,000 donation from the Mann Foundation. Any discussion? Okay. Here, I see. Now we need to allow the $5,187 to be used.
I'm going to try to wrap this into one thing. I'll make a motion that we allow the $5,187 of leftover funds to be applied towards the intern program for a total of $26,187.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hart, second by Commissioner Carlisle to allow the $5,187 of the leftover funds to be used for the curator intern program for a total of $26,187.
And it was Mr. Warren that did the second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Any further discussion?
She also said to earmark any unused funds for other Air Museum projects too.
You want to add that to you?
Yeah, we need to add that to your motion.
And also to earmark any unused funds.
We'll read the earmark any unused funds for other museum projects. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy.
Thanks for the Air Museum.
Yes.
Adventure Bay Water Park Summer Season Pool Passes.
autograph them later, guys.
Awesome.
Won't try to use these yet, they haven't been approved.
Is your picture gonna be on
They'll be on every card.
Every card, yes.
That way you guys get sick. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. My name is Matt Quinn with the Liberal Rec Department. I'm here tonight to just give out my pictures and my card and my name, so I'd like to thank you. No, for real, what I'm here tonight is to offer and kind of move the Adventure Bay into a new era, kind of more community-based, to say we want to get back to bringing people out. Attendance was down last year. We're looking for new ways to get people to the park. So tonight I bring to you guys with summer season passes. For an individual 3 and up, we'd be looking for $60, and that's the entire season. We'd also have an extreme adventure, which would include an all summer season pass with a aqua zumba and aqua aerobics, unlimited visits. This is very affordable, I feel, and for our area out here. Dodge City is at $70. Hayes is at $40, and Great Bend is at $40, but you're allowed only 15 visits. So I feel that's very affordable for each family from the numbers we did have originally. And a lot of places have gone away from the family passes, and this way you end up losing a lot of money in that route. So that way you just charge an individual pass. What you guys have in front of you is with our Civic Rec program that was passed several months ago. We have this on our system. So all we have to do is put the avatar, which would be my face or their face, and the system, and then we print it out. We'd hold the card at Adventure Bay, so if somebody comes up, they're not losing their card all the time. They can be like, hey, my name's Matt Quint, and we can look up their card. It's right there on file.
Awesome.
Scan it in and shows, hey, you got a pass. These are routes and ideas we're coming up with right now. So with your permission, staff is making a recommendation to move forward with summer season passes at Adventure Bay Water Park.
I will make a motion that we move forward with the summer season passes at the Adventure Bay Water Park.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Harden, second by Commissioner Martinez to move forward with summer season passes for Adventure Bay Water Park. Discussion. All in favor? Motion carries.
No questions. Okay.
Thanks for your work on that, man. Count me in for 3 of those.
We have some board appointments. First is the library board.
Anybody going to present that?
The library board is recommending Carol Deering be reappointed to serve a full term for the library board. No one is here tonight, but that is their recommendation.
Make a motion to approve Carol Deering on the library board.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Carlisle, second by Commissioner Harden to approve Carol Deering for the library board. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Carol Deering is appointed. The next one is the Liberal Housing Authority Board.
Mayor, Commissioners, I'm Barbara Curl from the Liberal Housing Authority. We had Tyler Wick. He had to resign his position on the board before it was fulfilled. So we have had a couple of applications, but the board has asked that you approve Lori Floor to fulfill the rest of this position for Ty. His appointment was supposed to be from June of 16 to May of 2020, and so that's what her fulfillment would be.
Make a motion to approve Lori Floor for the Liberal Housing Board.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Carlisle, second by Commissioner Harden to approve Lori Floor for the Liberal Housing discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next one is Earl's Engineer. The drainage report.
Mayor and Commissioners, by the way, there are other reports at the door. If you didn't grab one coming in, I believe you have them there. We kind of went through the first part of this earlier, so I'll kind of go through it a little bit quick. But the first page, as you flip open there, is kind of an overall look at the various drainage throughout the city. You know, what I've done is kind of broken that down into pieces to further describe. First part is simply what they are. The last part is some recommendations as to what we might want to do to improve what we have. So just quickly, some of this is repeat. Flipping past the first page, you see the ponds at the airport, the north end. They're actually around the golf course, but these ponds are actually picking up the water coming into town from the area of the farm ground north of the airport and the north end of the airport. And these ponds drain into the 15th Street drainage. Flip through the western pond, you see that's the figure 8 pond. Figure 8 pond not only collects the water coming down western, it also collects the water coming in again from the farm ground to the west. That all comes into that pond. It builds up, overflows into a storm sewer system, which again ties into the 15th Street drainage. The 15th Street drainage itself basically starts on the very west end of town and goes all the way through town, around the wastewater treatment plant, and north of Tucker Road, and that's where our discharge goes to. We obviously don't have any rivers or anything here. 15th Street drainage is the main carrier for the stormwater throughout the north part of town. Drainage from the middle of the airport, that basically comes down 2nd Street. There's no, there's just simply a drainage ditch that comes down 2nd Street. It's the one that you see that drains through the school, the high school area. It also picks up then the drainage from the high school parking lot. That drains over to Western, and that goes then into Cane Creek. That's the start of Cane Creek blocks at that point. The South Airport Pond, that is the pond that's just on the south end of the airport. Again, that's picking up water off the south end of the airport area. That water is detained and then discharges through a channel that basically is around General Welch Boulevard. It drains down to Western, and again Western back north to the Cane Creek drainage system. Western and Cane Creek, we flip to the next one. Cane Creek is the main box culvert that goes all the way through town. That intercepts most of the water throughout the middle part of town, and you can tell that there's two main ones on the north end of town, 15th Street and Cane Creek. And Cane Creek winds through town in a box all the way to about 8th Street and Oak. From there it turns into an open ditch that runs around. That's the ditch that continues on around the ball diamonds and on up and ties in again to the 15th Street drainage structures. The two ponds, Broad Pond, north of the railroad tracks. As you know, that is an area that we've created to try to collect some of that water that's coming along parallel with the railroad tracks on the north side. Broad Pond fills up and that has a pump, and that pump drains the water into Cane Creek. That's where that goes to. Iron and Metal Pond, that's basically the drainage between north 54, which is Pancake, and south of the railroad tracks around the elevator system. That's a small pond that again collects the flow in that area. That pump overflows, and that's when you see the water squirting out on the Kansas Avenue around Oak Street. That water continues down Oak Street, goes into the 2nd Street drainage. The 2nd Street drainage itself, there's a lot of parts to it, but basically the water's coming from Kansas Avenue going east. Most of it drains into the 2nd Street ditches. There's two flow from the south, also comes north from 54 also gets into the same drainage system. 2nd Street at Virginia, there's a line that a drainage system that tries to go along the north side. You see the diagonal that is in a pipe that goes underneath the railroad storage area there and enters into that small pond at 5th Street. The rest of the ditches drain down 2nd Street, up Commerce Avenue, and again goes to that same pond area. That's also the drainage that comes off of Ziegler Street down there. That pond, that ditch winds up north and ties into the same system on 2nd Street. South of US 54, we have the Southwest Pond. That pond was created to again pick up the water coming into town from the farm ground and so on that was draining into town and flooding 54. So that's what the main purpose of that pond was. But it also drains that portion of town. The water tries to get on Pine Street, tries to get there on West Pine, and also that whole southwest part of town tries to drain into that little ditch you see there that runs around that farm ground that's supposed to get over that pond as well. Pine Street East and that whole portion of town in there actually drains to Pine. Pine drains to what's called a playa, a non-drained depression. That's a floodplain. That's basically where all the water goes right now, is into that floodplain. It's simply a playa. It does not drain anywhere. And that's pretty typical of what happened with the state developed a lot of the roadways. They just drained to undrained depressions. Unfortunately, they never took easements or anything from those properties. So right now that's a floodplain, and that's basically where all that water drains to. As you're looking further to the east, around the Stu school system, school did put in ponds for their school. North side of that, as well as the area on Charles, Jerry, Jewel, that part, those streets all split. About half of it going to 83, and the other half going up to the north and into a drainage swale, I guess, that tries to drain back to, actually, you can see the arrows there, kind of drains back into the US 54 drainage system. There's a pipe, a culvert, that goes into an inlet, and that's where the partial ditches and partial pipes that go along US 54. What happens actually is that whole area just floods because US 54 pipes are too small to take this additional drainage. On west of 83, along 54, will mostly drain into US 54 drainage ditches. The US 54 continues out east. You know, you go so far east and then it actually starts to gain elevation going the other way. And that's what it does. There's a pipe under US 54. That pipe drains into what was, or is, a undrained depression. And that's where the car lot, their junk cars and so on are. They're in an undrained depression. Unfortunately, again, the state didn't take any easements or anything, and that's what they drained to back when they built 54, similar to when they built 83, when they built 160s. They simply drained into undrained depressions. That's all outside the city limits, obviously, but just to let you know, that's where that water goes. As we try to take a look at some...
That's what affects Frank, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Now, as we take a look at some of the recommendations, one thing we talked about was we did apply for a FEMA grant. Since then, they've asked for some additional information. We since provided that information on what would help, how we were helping the neighborhoods in that area throughout the project, the different projects, how they were going to help the homes and so on. And so that was turned in, and we still haven't heard anything. But what was in that grant? The funding for the grant, 75-25. That would, out of the $1.3 million that we estimated, that would give us about $934,000 to do some of these drainage projects. What was in those drainage projects, what we turned in for that part of the grant, was the possibility of enlarging the 5th Street pond some way, whether we provide property next to the existing pond or get property along Commerce Street or somewhere to enlarge a pond. That water overflows and goes into the railroad property. That railroad property drains to the east. It's in the US 54 ditch, and of course drains into the undrained depression. So these ponds would help that area considered. With that is the cleaning of the ditch along Commerce as well. Frog Pond was another one that was in there, to a large frog pond. Frog Pond, we actually own the area kind of drawn out there is what we actually own. If you flip back, you can see the smaller footprint of what we actually use. And so that would enlarge Frog Pond more than double its original size, simply using the property we have, taking out that berm that's in there now, and using the full area to do that. Now, someone's told me that there may be concrete down below that they've covered up as part of this. You know, my suggestion is simply use a dozer and push that over and use that for riprap along the side. I suggest that we leave about a 10-foot strip from our property line for obvious reasons, and then slope it down at 4 to 1, and dig our pond as reasonably deep as we can so that the pump still works. The intent is to you put timers on the pumps so that the pump doesn't come on for as much as, depending on the timer, as much as 48 hours. The idea is to let that water get through Can Creek before you pump the water out of this, would be the intent. Again, the less water we put into Can Creek, the more homes, streets along there can drain, be flooded by a pump. Obviously, a pump's going to get water in there. And so the more you can drain gravity before you put in the pump will help the situation all the way along Can Creek. I think on there also is the iron and metal. Iron metal on that same picture down below is an area that, again, as we pump it out, it floods what already is flooded in Second Street drainage. The intent there is to use, again, all the property that we own, enlarge that pond as much as we can. You see, as you look at that area, the little mound to the east, that's a mound we have to stay away from. That's where the hazardous material was buried and having to do with the remediation going on that site. And so that we can't touch, but everything else could be opened up and enlarge that pond considerably. The same thing applies. We want to hold that water until we can get the water way out of Second Street in order to, again, help that whole situation down on Second Street.
Is there any way we can contact Liberal and Iron Metal Pond over maybe to Frog Pond so it's not down Main Street?
We could reroute that force main. We just had to get with the railroad at the time. It was done. We did get the railroad permits to go under the railroad, that force main. But yes, that can be done.
The biggest complaint was people driving through that nasty water.
Sure. And that's a good point. We can get that rerouted. It's simply a force main. That's not an issue. The other one, the next is the adding a pond at the golf course. Again, the ponds are filling up. That's the beginning of the 15th Street drainage. So again, more water we can hold up on the upper end allows that 15th Street drainage to be used. At that point, it's a double pipe. That allows the areole to the north and to the south to drain into that 15th Street without being plugged up by the water coming off of basically the farm ground and from the airport. The softball baseball complex, there's an existing pond there that needs to be deepened. You can see the existing pond just south of the new baseball fields there. That pond is existing. The whole area to the south is the cities. That whole area could be opened up and used as an additional pond. And then a pipe could be put across from that little pond over so that we drain the ball fields into the big pond. The other thing that would be done is Can Creek comes up there and floods. And the way the elevations are right now, it floods into the ball field instead of into ponds. By taking out the dike on the west side, it would allow the Can Creek simply to flow into these ponds. And then as Can Creek overflows, or these ponds overflow, it would continue to go on into 15th Street for the buildup of the dike along the ball fields.
So we can't have canoe races?
No.
Just in Can Creek.
Yeah, we'll do it down 15th in Can Creek. Obviously, the Tucker Road ponds, the first part of this, for the grant part, was simply fixing the entrance into those ponds. If you look at the ponds, there's actually a large area that's unused. You see the area that's got water in it, that's basically because we're having trouble with wastewater treatment of volume of water coming off of cell 8. That's all we'll be taking care of in the next couple of years as we build our new treatment plant and National Beef builds their new treatment plant. That will cease. But you can see the water tries to come in what I'll call cell 1. But in order to get around to cell 2, it's got a ditch that goes all the way around. The whole property north is not used as a pond right now. That's all just area. So once, two things. One, to open that ditch up so the water actually uses those other cells. The other thing is to take the dikes out between those cells because there's really no reason to have separate cells. And so once National Beef, we stopped using it for National Beef, we would also take that dike out between what I'll call cell 1 and 4, so that that whole area that even as we have cells right now could be used immediately. The more water we can get in there at a lower depth allows us to drain Can Creek without building backing up in Can Creek before it gets be able to use the rest of the ponds. Those are the ones that we looked at just for the grant. The additional items are Can Creek itself, for the box. As far as I've talked with several people, I've been here since 2000, and never has that box been looked at, reviewed. We need to get in there and see the condition of the box, get that cleaned out, and that goes all the way from Western all the way to 15. Another, that's part, those are two items there. As we look at 15th Street long term, they have gotten in there and cleaned out 15th Street a lot, but as you know, it's dirt. Long term, the only way to keep that from eroding like crazy in a storm is to slowly get concrete in the bottom of that thing. As you can see, it's not cheap. Put a 12-foot bottom in that whole length is about $3.5 million. But that might be something to look at long term. That would, the only way you're going to stop the erosion is to get something down in there, such as concrete, so that you're not continuing. And if it does get debris in it, you have a concrete bottom, it's easy to clean out too because you have something to do grade-wise. The southwest part of town, north of the railroad tracks, the city has different ponds. As we look at, if you flip the next page, that's the South Airport and Western drainage. That pond drains off and goes, like I said, to Western. As you can see, the old railroad track used to come up there. That old railroad track basically broke the flow on Western going north and south. The idea at the time was that the drainage north of that old railroad track was supposed to flow north and into Can Creek. The area south was supposed to drain south. There's a box going underneath Western, and there was supposed to be a ditch along the railroad tracks, and probably was at one time. But when they tore out that old track, that all got leveled out, and there's no longer a ditch there. The water was supposed to flow parallel to the railroad track and would go into what is now Frog Pond. So that's the direction that's supposed to go, and that's the water that's coming off of 2nd Street as well. The streets were supposed to drain into that ditch on Western, and the other street was supposed to drain into 2nd Street and then flow through that box. Well, the culverts are smashed. Water, looks like to me that the water coming down 2nd Street now is almost diverted into that mobile home park instead of around it like it's supposed to. And so I'm sure they do see flooding, and it floods across there from the water coming in from outside of town on 2nd. The intent would be to fix that drainage and get it back to where it should be, which is taking it on the Frog Pond. The other thing you're looking at is this possibility we have the drainage going through that area north of General Welch. The idea would be to widen that out to slow the water down. It has a weir in there now that allows the water to slowly go through that. Obviously, it's around the airport, so you don't want water to hold there for long. You want to be able to get it out. But if you could have, this would allow a larger holding area in that area. Again, trying to reduce the water going into Cane Creek, to slow that volume of water getting in there in a time frame. So that's another recommendation. We talked a little bit about Second Street. We look at the Second Street drainage, the whole area needs to be cleaned out. Those ditches are basically completely full. You go down Second Street, they're basically, the ditches are almost gone. Now, most of the pipes are bent and crushed, but that is the main drainage to try and get that area. It comes up all the way from 54 from Ziegler. There's a drainage ditch that's supposed to take it all the way back to Second Street drainage. That's completely plugged. The drainage off of Virginia, which goes on around north of Second Street, is plugged with trees and debris. And of course, the whole Second Street ditch itself needs to be cleaned. The other thing is looking at south of US 54, which is the next photo. I talked a little bit about that and the fact that he's trying to drain into the 54 drainage system, which is already full. By plugging that culvert and creating a pond somewhere down in that area, in that triangle between 54 and US 83, we can get a pond somewhere in that area. We could eliminate a lot of problems those businesses are having, which try to drain to the rear of their yard. Again, there's no place for it to go. So a pond in those areas would help. It would also alleviate the water trying to get into US 54, which then would actually help the area further to the east.
One problem I have with that's prime real estate.
I agree.
And can we move the ponds back here and still leave the real estate?
You could put the pond north of Griffith in that area. The water, I mean, you're limited as to where you can take the water.
Yeah, I understand.
But you're right. I mean, it's none of those areas are currently used. One of those areas is currently platted for residential. They're building now on that area just north, or I call it north, of Jewel. So yeah, that one's, I'm not real sure where the best place to put a pond is in there. Maybe a longitudinal pond along that drainage. Just have a real long pond up through there instead of a rectangle, more long rectangular pond.
Yes.
Instead of the way it is. There's different options depending on what land we could get. So, kind of backtracking a little bit, but looking back at the Second Street by the airport. Again, there's a lot of water coming off the airport, and that just comes down Second Street. That ditch is minimal at best. And that's the one that goes around the school. The school is looking at redoing their parking lot, which also drains into that system. So if we could widen that ditch out to make it some kind of a larger holding area, would be very helpful. We'd have to work with the school district there. But that too, again, anything we can do to reduce the volume getting into Cane Creek in a timely manner will help us allow more water into Cane Creek as it goes through town. There's other areas in town that aren't in here. There's a lot of various miscellaneous drainage. One of them I thought about was, that the area on Clay, as we're working on Clay, there used to be a lake over there. They filled the lake in. Unfortunately, it still tries to drain there, back by the church now. But that area there has just been filled in with rubble until that whole intersection floods because it's trying to go to a lake that no longer exists. So again, that may be a good place for a possible detention pond in the future to do that. Also, as we're looking at West Pine, redoing West Pine, we quickly found out that that whole thing floods. And it's because, again, the ditches are full. It's got that huge pond on the southwest side, but water can't get there. So as we're looking at redoing that part of Pine Street in the future, we're looking at putting pipes in to drain that intersection, that curve, in order to take that water to that pond. So that's another area that we try to look at it. As we're looking at street projects, we also look at the drainage associated with those. And that's kind of a quick overall look at the various possibilities. A lot of it is maintenance, and other parts are going to be requiring some additional property for a few new homes. Questions I might answer.
Any comments from them?
I have a question. There's also a mobile home park called Gaslight Village up towards where Coronado is in, off of Railroad Street, on East. I like.
Isn't that East Second?
That's East Second.
Yeah.
That's, right south of where the pond is on Fifth Street.
Okay, yeah.
That real little,
That's part of that Second Street drainage that goes nowhere because the pipes in there, yes. So that would help that area considerably if we get that cleaned out and an additional pond in that area.
A very dedicated employee who walked to work because they couldn't get their car out there.
I believe that, yeah. That flood's terrible right now, yes.
Have you considered that farm ground that I showed you and the other commissioners on the east side of Highway 54? And that would be farm ground that has no buildings or no structures, so it would probably be easily purchased at a fair price. And the water does run on the east side of that Highway 54.
I realize that. Quite honestly, I was looking at stuff inside the city limits. That being out in the county.
Well, now, is that in the county? It's right across the street from the Loves. Now,
It's
where
in the
does the city limits begin and where does it end? Are you telling me that everything west of Highway 54 is city limits and
No,
to
I'm
the
not.
east is not?
No.
You have all those businesses in there, and I would presume that they were in the city limits.
Frank, what I would wonder is if you look at the South US 54 drainage portion of this printout, won't that solve a lot of the water that would be normally heading directly towards his direction of where he's at?
Which one?
The South US 54 drainage? So the one that you have against South.
Yeah, that would help the situation there. I mean, what he's talking about is doing a pond further east than that.
Oh, yeah, I know where he's talking about the pond, but I'm thinking if
But
you
I was
put a
trying
pond-
to take care of the drainage.
Yeah, within the
The
city.
city, that's called, these all flood.
Yeah.
This area flood.
But I'm thinking a lot of his water used to come down that area anyway, so if there's new ponds there, that should be solving part of the problem. And I would think that with the way that you showed on a previous page, with the drainage that was coming down that KDOT didn't get a study on, that's heading directly towards the west side of his property, if you put a pond on the east side of your property, Frank, your entire place is gonna be a pond. Because you're gonna have water coming in this side, water coming in this side, the only thing separating it is your property itself.
Well, I think the other thing that'd help is the Second Street. Additional ponding at Second Street area, which now overflows into the railroad, which also goes to 54. Would also help the situation.
I really I enjoyed what Jack Carlisle was saying about taking and putting those ponds south of it would be Railroad Street.
well, Fifth, yeah.
And where that tower is, because that tower is going to be there forever, and you're not going to build underneath that. It's going to be dead space. And what Jack is trying to do, he's trying to save the real good real estate for companies that are coming in, and it's getting this water off of Main Street, which I really enjoyed what he had to say.
That's amazing.
Well,
Well, we went out there. You
Yeah, I know,
showed
I
me
know.
what the city was thinking.
There's a lot of different places for ponds, absolutely. I mean, this is just a quick review of various areas, what's available, what we can purchase, what's about.
And where are we at?
Realistically,
well, and
Where are we at on the grant?
that stuff was sent in just a couple weeks ago again. They sounded like it was a good possibility if we could answer the questions, which I think we did. So Karen got all that sent in last couple weeks ago, like I said. We haven't heard back from them yet, which is not unusual for me.
So we still basically don't wanna get started on nothing that we.
Well, there's stuff we can get going on, I wouldn't say that, because it's a drainage grant. And so, even though we may do some of the work ahead of time, such as maybe cleaning out Frog Pond or whatever, I think the volume that or dollars that we don't use there, we could use on one of the other projects we stated, like Tucker Road Ponds, which we could do a lot more out there. And I think the overall, as long as it's been mentioned in the project, in what we sent grant money for, we can use it. May use more than what was estimated, but they won't have a problem with that. Now, we couldn't do a project that's not listed in the grant, but we can expand a project that's already in the grant.
I have a question. I don't understand most of what you said, so if you've already answered this question, I'm sorry, but is there something in there that addresses Clay and Second and the Harrison Circle area? Because I had numerous friends that had to completely redo their basements in that area.
That's when they knocked the basement wall in and Clay and Second, you know.
A lot of Second
Creek deal, isn't it?
Yeah, that's part of the Can Creek
Yeah,
deal.
all around
A lot of
Harrison Circle,
Second
flooded,
Street
you
will
know.
be addressed when we.
That's actually gonna be part of the Second Street project. As we're looking at the redoing of Second Street, that, I know what you're talking about. But yeah, that's part of the Second Street project, as we look at Second Street, looking at the drainage in Second Street. There's a few little inlets right now, and they're on surface inlets that plug up. So that whole area goes underwater and floods. And that, again, that's trying to go to Cane Creek. Unfortunately, about all we can do along there is get some more inlets to get the water off of the street and get it into Cane Creek. So the more we can do to prevent water, again, upstream from getting in, the more we can do to get water into Cane Creek through town. So yes, that's part of the Second Street project, actually.
Thank you.
I hate to say this, but that thing was flooded 55 years ago.
I know. You think we have it by now?
More inlets will help, because, changing into the streets filled and plugged up with water. So more inlets is not gonna help you. More inlets is just gonna go into the same flooded area right by the street. That whole street overfloods like that because those inlets are filled up, so it backs up into the street. If you have more inlets, it's not gonna do you any good, because all this flooding is under the street already filled up with water.
Part of what we're looking at that intersection on the Second Street project is also taking some of that water to Frog Pond.
And that is where we're supposed to drain either.
Yes, sir.
That one, and that's not where it's supposed to drain either. It's not designed to do that in Frog Pond. The only reason it does is because it overflooded on Second Street so bad that it went down Prospect to Frog Pond. And the reason you have that flood in Second Street like you do is because it's coming in west of town from the airport. And all that area over there from the airport all the way to Western overfloods with a huge volume of water, and then tries to make it to town to the district box, and it can't do it because there's too much volume of water. And as it continues to flood like that, as it comes, water's all the way 5 feet up on Brady Johnson's house and flooded in the basement. Down right down there, Clay.
I see 6 different pages of examples on here of ways that water is going to be completely diverted from even making it to that area. So I would think.
I didn't see one. All I seen was they wanted to go to the high school and asked them to go to retention pond for the school. And if I was in high school, if I was using for it, there's no way in the world I'd want for retention pond right from the high school. But the only place that I seen was the possibility of a nice retention pond is behind where Nashville is now. But it has to be one of large enough size to contain the volume of water that would be needed to stop that flooding to Second Street. You go down Second Street, you're just gonna waste a whole bunch of money with all those little inlets and things like that into a system that's already overwhelmed by all this water from west of town. It can't handle that water. We're talking about volume. It doesn't matter how many holes you put into the street for the water to drain into. If the drainage underneath the street is already filled with water, it's just gonna flow back up to the street again anyway.
Do you have any elevation numbers on this, or is this just visual observation?
Visual observation for over 20 years. I've been flooded twice.
That's what we're talking about, cleaning out.
Floods, I go down there and I walk it.
You get water to the place. So we
In rubber boots, I walk out there in that water and I see what it does. I walk down there where those holes are, that's supposed to drain down into all underneath the drainage underneath the street. They're completely filled. There's nothing going into them because they're over flooded.
I think we
They
need
can take
to.
out the water and they put down the prospect.
Tony, thank you for your input. Would you finish your report for us, please?
Well, basically what, as we look at this thing, what I'd like to do is just put together a list of priorities, to try and see what we can do in-house and what we can, need to hire done. Take a look with, what funding we may need to be looking at down the road, to do all the projects, try to list as much as we can do in-house as possible. There's several items, a lot of it's maintenance that we can do. And then, as we look at the priorities, start looking at possibilities for locations of different ponds and cleaning and so on. And get back to you with a priority list per se that we could work with city staff, put together, and try to get a bunch of this stuff done. Now's the time to try and do as much as we can, maintenance-wise, as we continue to look at possibilities for additional pond locations.
Once we kind of look at what we can start to accomplish before the FEMA money comes in, do we have an open line of communication with FEMA to make sure that before we pull the trigger on starting any of those projects, it's not going to put the grant in jeopardy?
Yes, we can get a hold of him directly.
And find out pretty quickly what we can do?
Well, let's suggest we move forward with this.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you very much. US 54 and Clay Street project.
Well, let's be too, we're working on the intersection there at 54 and Clay. Also, that's part of our water line project. Well, where they do the apron going to the north, we'll have this real raggedy chunk of asphalt from that new concrete to the railroad tracks. And what we're looking to do is, as we do this project, just do an addition. It would come out of our regular street funds that we had budgeted for this year. We will actually be able to pour that and use the same contractor that's doing Clay in 54. And we'll be able to go, correct me if I'm wrong, within 10 feet of the railroad tracks. And then we'll have to probably get with the railroad, because we have to put 2 feet of asphalt next to their concrete, and then we would have to blend in the concrete on the rest. But that concrete would take us past the driveway for the bus depot or the bus station, the laundromat, and those apartment complexes. And we've already tore out about half the asphalt on that side anyway, putting in the water line. So Smoky Hill has given us a quote for $107,443 to do that much. And then we're looking at the rest. We had budgeted, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but 1.4 for street projects this year, which was going to be Pine. Well, Pine we cannot mill and overlay and do as we planned. So we're going to look at trying to do some concrete, at least from 54 to Kane, and then do some patching and crack sealing and chip seal. And overall, between Pine and this Clay Street, we're still going to be probably $500,000 or $600,000 under what we budgeted for the year for streets, which still leaves me awful short for doing Second Street next year. But we'd like approval to go ahead and award Smoky Hill this bid to finish this. So we're not, and asphalt and concrete are not real compatible anyway, because they contract and expand at different rates. And that's just, we've got to replace the asphalt there anyway.
They've got it halfway tore out.
Yeah, it's half gone down. So part of this 107,000 is kind of fictitious, because I think, what was it, 15,000 was plugged into the water line project for the street repair there. You remember, Pete?
Yeah, something like that.
So, but we'll be able to, I think, we'll have to be able to plug 15,000 in and out of this out of the water line project, because it's an SRF. That might be kind of touchy.
Shows that this did not include crushing the concrete. Are you gonna come back tomorrow and ask for more money for that, or what?
I don't have any concrete.
That's asphalt going on.
Well, that's asphalt going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I'm not crushing contractors. I'm sorry, Jack. Good.
Well, because that's what's Smoky Hill Road on that deed.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, there is no concrete at all.
I don't live down there, you do.
Yeah.
Any motion to approve this?
I'll make the motion that we, approve the $107,000 bid for Smoky Hill. Second.
We have a motion to approve the $107,443.80 contract with Smoky Hill. Commissioner Martinez made the motion, Commissioner Warren seconded the motion. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. 5-0. City managers report.
Well, I'd like to announce we have a guest speaker first tonight. Come on up, Skeety.
Just had a quizzical look from Chief, but, I just want to tell you guys tomorrow, any of you guys want to come up to the North Station, we're having a grain engulfment training that you guys are welcome to come attend and check it out. And then remind you on June 5th is our aircraft firefighter training, and you're welcome to come out to the airport. We'll get you into the airport and let you guys check that out as well.
What time tomorrow?
I believe tomorrow is 8 to 5. So I think the first part's classroom, the part that you probably want to see, probably about 10 o'clock or so.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Skeety. All right, any other guest speakers, or that was it? Of course, as usual, I want to thank the staff. You guys have been great. I have some really, really rough days, and then somebody always walks in and picks me up, and I want to thank you for that. Some days are really rough. If you guys looked in your packets, you should have had a deal from the League of Kansas Municipalities. It concerns basically a service line insurance protection plan that would be available for residents. I just want to know what your thoughts are if we want to maybe pursue that and find out what it would cost. Basically, the benefits to the residents and municipalities include it educates homeowners and reduces local officials' frustration. There's no cost for the Kansas cities to participate. It's affordable rates for residents. It increases citizen satisfaction. The program pays for repairs, not your residents. Customers are provided with a 24/7, 365-day repair hotline, staffed with live agents. I got to hear that. All repairs performed to local code by rigorously vetted, licensed, and insured local contractors. And Utility Service Partners is responsible for all aspects of the program, including marketing, billing, customer service, and performing all repairs. And the league has chosen to highlight this program, and basically like your input.
I definitely think it sounds like something we should pursue.
Okay.
What's it gonna cost the homeowner?
That's what I don't have that information. I wasn't gonna chase a bunch of numbers if you didn't think it was anything we were interested in chasing. Now, Chris, you got a job.
But just something to give citizens another resource if somebody to reach out to and experience problems.
What utilities is it sewer, water, gas?
Sewer and water, obviously, because they spell that out, leaking outside water and sewer lines. And it covers up to $8,500 per occurrence.
I remember receiving something in the mail from some utility, but I thought it was just water to your home.
So
I tapped to your home.
So I will chase that and get the information on what the rates are. Liberal Baseball Association will be hosting the 15 and under tournament this weekend, starting Friday night. Lord willing, it don't rain Friday night. So we welcome all of you to come out and help support. I think we're up to 7 or 8 teams. Seven on almost less than a week's notice. So we're hoping to start, this will kick us off on the tournament schedule. This will be our first one. And and just keep rolling.
Instead of 15U team doesn't have very good coaches.
Well, yeah, I know that, but that's beside the point. We are looking for volunteer coaches because, like you said, this one isn't very good. And that's about all I have, unless anybody's got any questions.
Okay, we'll take items from commissioners. Commissioner Martinez, you want to start us?
Just want to thank city staff for things looking good in town. Went out and looked at the new ball field building. That looks very nice. I think it'll be impressive. Tournament. Appreciate that.
As always, thanks city staff so much for everything you guys do and all the hard work you put in. Thank you to everybody that comes to the meetings, reads the papers and stays and pays attention. So go ahead and keep it as short as last meeting.
Good night. I want to thank Rita, Frank, Nancy, Tony for your input. Okay, we appreciate community involvement. We really do. I want to thank city staff and everybody for the Arcala. It's looking real good. A lot of compliments on it, and a lot of hard work's gone into that. And maybe one of these days we'll finish the roof on their museum.
We're working on it now.
We're working on it.
That's awesome.
Started last week.
Amen.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the public for coming out here and helping us with, I mean, everybody cares about this community and we can't make changes or do things without knowing what people think. And I also want to thank the city staff. We had a high school regional baseball tournament here last week. Didn't go our way, but the staff had put a lot of work into the field and looked as good as it's looked that I can ever remember, to be honest with you. And I was out there today too, got to see the machine. I hope that's something that we can, I think it'll save the staff some time. Maybe we'll get a chance to, if they bring that before us, to help them out a little bit on that, to cut some labor time on working on that. I did have something, not to drag out the meeting, but just a little information. I'm not necessarily looking for answers tonight at all, just putting this out in front of you guys. Had questions about the self-help housing. There was a bid that was done for I think we had 6 houses left to be done on the last grant.
I thought it was 5.
Yeah, is there 5?
There's 5.
5 houses to complete the grant. And like I say, this is for information for people to figure out what, if we want to do anything or look at it. I was in the bid process for the foundation and framing before I was a commissioner, and it had turned in bids and had them at the bid opening. I'm in no way asking to be eligible to do the work. I'm fine with not being able to do the work. I understand some of the guidelines for Little Dixie on the grant. What I'm asking is, however, there was a few subcontractors that would have bid this project for the homeowners if I wouldn't have bid it, that didn't get the opportunity to bid the job. And I'm not sure where we're at on the project, but I know as far as foundation, I'd asked the question. I'm not sure whether we had a complete answer on whether had it been awarded to a higher bid. I feel like the people in this program deserve to probably get the best work for the best price. And my question may be, which is not tonight, whether a couple of those items should be rebid, since I actually at the time of bid opening was low bid on both those items. And there are people that do work, that used to work for me that can do the same work that would have bid it at the same price. I'm not usually accustomed to saying that other people's work isn't as good, but I've seen some of the work, and I think some of the people that in self-help would agree that some of the concrete work they've got in the past from some of the people that bid it is not at the same standard as some of the work that we usually do in our houses. Same with the framing. The reason that I'm not, and like I said, just give you this information, that I'm not allowed to perform that work is because I am a member of the board that administers the grant. However, in the past, this board has never actually taken any involvement in administering the grant. And that is another question I have for this board, is if we choose to do that, to make sure that the grant is administered correctly. Part of the way that it's been done in the past is that we've had city employees picking who the subcontractors are for the homeowners. And I didn't apologize for not bringing the book, but like I said, I'm not asking anybody to do anything tonight anyway. Just trying to more information of what I think that we should be looking into is the homeowners are supposed to be led by the construction supervisor to pick their subcontractors anyway, and I don't think we've ever awarded the bids that way, regardless of who was running the program. I don't think that's the problem. I think it's, like I say, I'm asking if we want to, if we're going to have them finish the grant, if we want to have this be, since we are the administrators of the grant, and if we want it to be done properly for the last 5 houses anyway, but and let those people pick their own subcontractors, or in the method that is supposed to be done. I think it will lead to not having problems like we did on Jordan, where a plumber, everybody's kind of aware of the problem that happened back several years ago with the plumber. Several homeowners lost money, and they weren't allowed to select the plumber that actually ended up costing them money that maybe, and it's just my opinion, that the city probably owes to those homeowners. But I'm just putting that out there for you guys to see if you want to look into it anymore or not, and mostly because, like I say, I'm excluded from the bid because I'm on the administering board, but we're not administering.
Well, not looking at the rules and going off your faith. If that's what the rules are, I think that's what we ought to be doing.
Can the bids be redid though?
Well, if the contract, if the homeowners have the right to pick who they want, that's why we bid.
Well, I was informed that we awarded the bid. The bid was awarded already. Since the bid's already awarded, we made that representation to, I say we, somebody that had the authority to do that on behalf of the city. Then whoever we awarded the bid to would have been relied upon it. We're going to be stuck with whoever that bid was made to. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying that's just the process of the situation we get stuck in.
My answer to that would be that I have been awarded the bid before one time and gave it up, and had to give it up after I had planned on having it on the Coolidge project. So precedence has been set that they've awarded the bid and then changed contractors. So
I have a solution for this problem. Let's just stop the self-help housing right now, not build these other 5 houses, and call it quits. Because we are not renewing the grant. Let's just stop it right now.
Honestly, Connie, I actually feel that may be unfair to the families that may be getting loans to build those houses. I just feel like we know.
Nothing's been sent in on the loans, that this would be the time we can stop it.
Yeah, nobody is qualified yet.
Oh,
they have applications, but nobody has been qualified.
Certainly.
I guess we would need an action item from the commission then
Do we need to look into the fact of whether it costs us money for not completing the grant? I mean, I think those are questions that we can't answer tonight, so
Yeah,
I think it would be inappropriate to take action tonight.
Well, and this item's not on the agenda tonight
Yeah.
either. It'd be better to put it on the agenda for next
Yeah.
meeting's discussion and get the copy of the grants disseminated to all the commissioners.
Do some more research and kind of see what the
Oh,
ripple
Karen
effect
was
is.
here, is she gone?
She gonna
See that? And other than that, that's all I have.
Well, only problem I see with eliminating 5 houses is we're gonna take 5 houses that are gonna go on the tax roll already.
That would be totally speculation there because of the fact that there are people building spec houses now and those buyers. And I didn't mention that as part of the deal, but part of the, as far as us administering the grant, I was gonna mention the fact that we do not, and I say we as the city, that when they do the deal, they haven't actually done a very good job of making the homeowners put in the hours that they're supposed to put in. I've never taken a position against the self-help housing, and I'm gonna stay out of that. As far as, I'll let somebody else decide whether we should do it or not do it. But they are, in some ways, it's been mentioned in competition because they don't, the grant actually pays the contractors, but I would be totally in favor of it if it was completely ran by the rules. But generally, the families haven't been.
So you think there's somebody would build?
Yes.
If these others are not?
Let's put this item on the agenda for next time.
We got Marvin Chance doing a bunch of them, so.
May I ask a question, or is it too late?
Nope, read it.
Of all the houses you built for self-help, how many people actually have gone in there and helped? Substantially, have they done anything? Or
Not a
is it
lot. They have not done a lot.
I probably actually have more knowledge of that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's here, I mean, Karen would have more, but, you know, early in the project, Jim Rice actually did that was the construction supervisor for the first 3 houses. And I think my father was the construction supervisor for maybe the next 42, I think it was. And they did actually keep, for a while, they actually kept the time cards and had time card or a time clock where people clocked in. So originally when the program started, they did try to follow the guidelines and keep track of the time that the people did, because there is a requirement in those instructions of how many hours they're supposed to put in to get that equity in their house, because that's what it is the equity. And like I say, and that's I feel like one of the problems is if they don't put in the time and we're just using the grant, and I'm not saying that there's no money spent from other places, I just don't know how they get it all done. But I even felt like when my father was on the job, they did too much work for them and not have the people. But I do know at that time they did a lot more of the labor than they do now. There's more things. They used to do the roofing, which they don't do now.
How many have we done total? How many?
Probably in the 50s, aren't they? They're in the 50s, somewhere in the 50s. 50s.
Okay. How many people have vacated the houses because they cannot afford payments? And what's the actual payment on?
My guess would only be about 3 or 4, but it would be my guess.
Well, I know one thing, they can't water a yard,
Why's that?
because every one of them's got weeds in it.
Well, this is.
Some of them are trying. I mean,
You can see some of them are very nice, and some of them are disgrace. And personally, I resent putting in money in a house that I couldn't afford payments myself. If these people can't afford a house, how come they're living in a house? What's the actual cost of a house?
Well, they have a mortgage.
How much?
They have a mortgage on the house.
How much does the actual house cost?
I would guess theirs are upwards of 135,000, maybe more. They don't, since they actually pull their own permits, their homeowners permits, there's not actually a sale, so that they don't really affect appraisals. So, which I think some people thought, like I said, I think there's good points and bad points about the deal, but, and there's good homeowners and bad homeowners. There's a lot of them that take pride in their deals and they put up fences in the yards. There's just, like I say, there's a few bad things that probably could be done differently, and, but it's like all deals, even the houses that I built for Shannon south of, Standard Supply. Some people took pride in their yards and some people didn't, and those were not in a program. They actually qualified, a lot of them, on the same loan, which is a rural development loan. But
can you resell the homes that people have not kept up with? They've got like no payments, moved out?
yeah, I
Can
think
you do
that,
those?
I can't answer that exactly, but I would think those go back to rural development, and they actually do sell those houses.
They have been
Yeah.
sold before?
Yeah.
USDA carries the mortgage. The city's just responsible for administrating the grant to build the houses.
Wait a minute, you said the USDA?
Rural development.
Yeah, it's a federal program that's state operated, kind of.
Thank you, Rita.
We'll move on to the vouchers.
I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers in the amount of $577,748.64.
I will second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Martinez, second by Commissioner Hart, to approve the vouchers in the amount of $577,748.64. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 5-0. We have executive session.
I'll move to go into executive session for 10 minutes to discuss non-elected personnel pursuant to KSA 754319B1, which is the personnel matters of non-elected personnel exemption under the Kansas Open Meetings, and includes City Attorney King and HR Director Sheena, and City Manager Calvin Burke to the executive session. We will go in at 7:13 and return at 7:23. Excuse me, 7:14 and return at 7:24. Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of Taylor's motion, raise your right hand.
That's been a hard one to repeat.
I was hoping to say second.
Yeah, I actually was thinking the same thing.
I think next time we'll give them maybe 5 minutes.
Yes, trouble?
No, actually, I have to think about it. Like old Jack was showing me, there are areas that they could take a picture of. And I can tell you something, as soon as you get my retention pond dug out,
Well, I think anything that can cut down water going east.
but the city of Liberal is going to expand, and they want the building to go, the heavy industry to go on highways. Otherwise, I wouldn't love going there. You have to.
Well, that's a truck.
I know. Yeah, there is, where I showed you guys, that one area that was low spot on the highway. That would be an ideal location for the retention. I understand that it's gonna take money to do that, but, and I do appreciate you. You're saying the same thing as what we've already told you. And at least now, you guys are trying to get this ball rolling. Now, that's what it's about. And I do appreciate that. I really do. And, you know, I'll quit bitching quite as much. Because you guys are trying. But just what I asked, why can't the city provide a little money to deal with that retention pond on this?
Well, somewhere we gotta get some old trees.
And I heard you say that, I can, you're even looking at that.
Well, Second Street is a disaster. And of course, all that water, because that pond's so small, it overtops, flows down the railroad tracks, it's going the same way, it ends up in the same location.
So you guys want to buy me out?
I have nothing to do with it. This guy's not gonna. I don't have a dollar. No, it's a start.
Yeah,
It's a start.
actually,
It's a start. That's what you have to look at.
And
It's a start.
as soon as you guys, and like I said, it's not gonna be very much money to take and put some equipment into that pond and some now. And besides that, you guys can use the dirt.
Well, you always use dirt.
Yes.
That's a quantity that always.
That's correct. And so, you know, it's not
That
like.
the truth is, as you know, the wind blows out here a whole lot more than rain. And if you don't constantly keep ditches and so on clean, they don't work there. And when's the last time a ditch was cleaned?
I don't.
Like I said, I've been here early 2000. I talked to people who've been here for a lot longer than me. Never.
But
you can't do this.
I just want you to know that I do appreciate you guys trying.
Like I say, this is a start. It's not the whole thing. It's a start.
We actually, I actually feel bad because I watched this city flood since I was a child.
They've done nothing.
If you could actually do some of that, I would appreciate it.
If they can do it. See,
Quit wasting time at other projects.
That's right, they do have maintenance.
They're not contractors. Which is what I'm gonna write. This priorities. They have maintenance crews. That's what they are. Maintenance. That's what you're supposed to do.
Well, if you need somebody to run some of that equipment, I am an equipment. Even though I don't have a license, I've done front end loader and heavy equipment, and so, you know.
To do some of that help. That's not a bad idea.
Something I'll throw in.
Yeah, and I think there's other people.
There are, but.
Flooding, they have some agreements that are willing to do some of it. And we can get, some funds that will allow them to do some of it. Community,
See, it's only 3 months before we have a year birthday. I know it. Anyway.
Well, I appreciate you guys.
You bet.
I hope you see we are trying.
Well,
It just takes a while, but just need to keep pushing.
well, we will. Trust me.
But I'll have something for the next meeting. Get some.
I'll be here for the next meeting.
Tell them that. Thank you.
I'll be here for the next meeting.
Do you just want me to keep those copies at City Hall in case someone wants? Yes, I gave everyone a pair of copies. So, and then I have an additional one, but I presume since we made them.
Give Danny one.
Okay. No, I didn't even think about him. Okay. Well, I just, because he's not here.
I'm walking away now.
No, we're all grandmother and grandmother at that place, Vernon Crochet at, Frank Moyer, Vernon Crochet. We are 1,000 feet on the highway, so we don't need it. But we have, as a matter of fact, the bids will be in work on today. Why?
Oh, it is, it is. It just, it just seems off. It's just like all those little houses. What can we do about that?
Name him up, name him up.
So who owns it now? They are.
I'll call the meeting back to order. Does the commission wish to take any action resulting from the executive session?
No action taken.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming.